It's a Victory Tuesday wherever you are, whether you're in or around Baltimore, overseas, anywhere. November 26th. It's a Tuesday, 12:10 Eastern. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens lunch hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside Sarah Ellison. We got a lot to comb through when it comes to national reaction, including Chase Daniel, former NFL QB, who believes he's watching not the greatest show on turf, but the greatest show on grass from these Baltimore Ravens and their offensive attack. We'll get into that, along with a number of other things, including something that is reverberating through the NFL world, and that is a sound bite from Troy Aikman. It was a quick turnaround off the primetime game, but I am committed to being fully polished today, and I know I'm going to do it. Partner, how are you? Good to see you.
I still have adrenaline in me, Bobby. I still have adrenaline in me from last night. I think we closed up around 1:30, 1:45, something like that. I did allow myself an extra hour of sleep, so I got up at 7 instead of 6. But listen, we have come through. We know that people want national reaction because the Ravens were on the national stage yesterday. So the facility, get up, the remarks at the end of the ESPN Monday night game. What else you want? First take. Y'all think that because we're 8 minutes late, you think that we slept in. We didn't. We've been combing through content, doing the work that you can't do because you're at work. So we're bringing it to you, all the national reaction, and then our reaction to the national reaction coming up. Adrenaline's still surging through me over here, Bobby.
I'm going to try my best to feed off of it. You know what I did after we finished up the editing process, the personal video on the other channel, things of that nature. Pouring rain in upstate New York this morning. Tilly's soaking wet. We got to dry her off. It's been a day already, but we're off and running, and lots to get to, including plenty of national reaction. The Ravens are apparently found a comfort zone, Sarah, these days of being the comeback kings, the comeback kids, whatever you want to refer to that as. We'll take a look at their chances of potentially winning the AFC North now that they've crawled within a half game of the Pittsburgh Steelers for that honor atop the division. A hilarious soundbite post-game from Derrick Henry on Mark Andrews. Malik Harrison takes a late-night victory lap. There's nothing better on a red eye, right? Everybody's tired. Marlon Humphrey's victory Instagram Live certainly indicated that. A lot of guys were shooing him away. Get out of my face. It's a red eye. We're exhausted. But Malik certainly had a career night under the primetime lights. Khil Mack said some controversial things about Derrick Henry in the Ravens post-game, and we're going to tally up a number of other notes once we get to quick hits as we take a look at this, but passing the baton off to you as we get the national reaction topic underway.
And Bobby, if we have enough time, you know about it. I had a certain workout this morning that had a theme in it.
Yeah, that's true.
A theme in it that I may have to tell you guys about later on because it was kind of funny. That's also why I've got a lot of adrenaline in me today. So if we have time at the end, I'll talk about that. But yes, let's start out. There were so many things to choose from, but let's start with some positivity. And then later we'll bring ourselves down to reality a little bit and remind ourselves of the challenges that are out there for the Ravens, even coming off of a fantastic win like last night. But one Chase Daniels, these guys on Sundays, they have to split up their time. They got to look at different games everywhere. But on Mondays, they get all the time to watch them. And so it's like they went around the panel in the facility. What is it? What's the takeaway that you get after watching the Ravens full game last night? And Chase Daniels probably had the biggest statement of them all.
Offense is electric. The offense is one of the best offenses in NFL history. What struck me last night is how easily they can score. They scored on 5 straight drives and where they can score from. So it got my producer and I, Colin, thinking, what type of offense is this in terms of NFL history, NFL lore? Well, everyone knows about the greatest show on turf, right? This is the greatest show on grass. Look at these numbers, okay? 32 points a game for the Rams. The Ravens right now are averaging 30. But they have more yards per game. They have more rush yards per game. That's 6.97 yards per play. That's crazy. Historic. Yeah, that's the crazy one. If that ends today, it's the second best yards per play in NFL history. They're making it look easy. Now, the 1999 Rams ended with a Super Bowl. But will this Ravens team end with the Super Bowl as well? They look like it last night. Their defense might be looking a little funny in the light, though. But 1999, greatest show on turf, to now the greatest show on grass. It's real.
What do you think, Bobby? I mean, that's pretty high praise. We all know the greatest show on turf was absolutely amazing. I mean, the numbers are up on the screen. He just went through them. And the Ravens 2024 squad is right up there. Right up there. They're like only down by 1.5 points, but way over on the net yards per game, way over on the rushing yards per game. I mean, it's just it's the last one we don't know about yet. Can they translate the greatest show on grass to a Super Bowl? But what do you think of this comparison? Too lofty, or you feeling good? You feeling okay about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously super impressive, and it's a nice sample size now. They're entering week 13. So this is like, December football is right around the corner, and that's exactly what the Ravens are staring at when they'll host potentially the NFC candidate to come out of the conference in the Philadelphia Eagles, who are playing really good football, have ripped off, I think, 7 or 8 straight wins, and they're rolling right now. So it's a good sample size. Obviously, the legacy defining category, as you mentioned, still has the question marks. That's still left to be determined, which will ultimately be how this argument is decided. And this comparison really will have more credence once that's decided. But I think what's probably most impressive about these numbers, they're doing this as the most penalized team in the league.
Yeah.
They have this way of overcoming their undisciplined state. And that's what they are. They're an undisciplined football team, statistically speaking. And I think that's the greatest testament to how powerful they are offensively through 12 weeks. They can overcome adversity that they create for themselves in self-inflicted wound type of examples. We've seen it time and time again. We saw it last night. Some of them are phantom. Some of them are self-inflicted. Some of them are inexcusable. But the fact that they're in the neighborhood,
Yeah,
and even above the neighborhood of the greatest show on turf through 12 weeks with December football on deck, pretty freaking sensational.
it is pretty friggin' sensational. They had a little bit of a debate with which offense they would take. I mean, you got Kurt Warner, who did he have 3 Super Bowl wins? I think it was
Kurt had, let me look up his
several. You looked that
resume.
up. They had Marshall Faulk versus Derrick Henry. Now, I do feel like the greatest show on turf had the leg up on wide receivers. Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt. Keep going there. But
so just one bowl for Kurt. He was a Super Bowl
really?
MVP, 2-time
one?
league MVP,
Okay.
2-time first-team All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler, so on and so forth.
Well,
Decorated resume, but just one Super Bowl.
Lamar's on his way. I mean, Lamar's got to get the one. The one is kind of a big deal. He obviously matches him in the MVP title, but yeah, being in the neighborhood is certainly a compliment to this 2024 Ravens. Now, James Jones, his big takeaway was like, it was kind of funny. He was like, for the first quarter, they were kind of, not just hanging around, they were kind of leading the charge. And he was like, and then Lamar came out there and he's like, all right, I'm done playing with y'all. Now get off my field. just took things over. But what he couldn't understand, he's like, why can't we get this more consistently? So that was his big takeaway. And I agree with James Jones. Can we get this version of the Ravens more consistently? Now, part of the reason, Bobby, that the Ravens are putting together what Chase Daniels is calling the greatest show on grass, Acho, I felt like, got into the nitty-gritty of the X's and O's, talking about why they're so good on offense and likened it to a number of pitches that a pitcher in baseball might have.
The Ravens have the most dynamic offense in football. Let me say this as a defensive player. What I mean by that is the Ravens have the ability to throw the most pitches, and they can change the pace of those pitches. Let me show y'all exactly what I mean. What the Ravens do, and Shady, you'll love this more than anybody here, they're just going to run power. Just simple power. Just going to run power at you, and we're going to make the safety tackle. That's what the Ravens are going to do. Okay, you can't make the tackle, safety. That's sorry. We're going to do it again. We're going to build it differently this time, but Shady, you know this play all too well. We're going to run power, and we are going to make the safety step up and make a tackle. You don't want to tackle Derrick Henry. So now you bite down on your mouthpiece because you know they're liable to run power. So now we're going to bring in a change of pace back. And now we're not going to run power. Now we're going to run split zone. But here's the problem. All game long, I've had to tackle Derrick Henry. So now this safety is down, ready to tackle Derrick Henry one-on-one, but it's not Derrick Henry.
He fast.
It's Justice Hill. And now you bite down on that mouthpiece ready to tackle that running back. You think it's Derrick Henry. Next thing you know, it's Justice Hill. And that ball's going all the way into the end zone. So when I say the Ravens are the most dynamic offense in football, it's because they have the ability to throw the haymaker. They have the ability to throw the jab. They have so many pitches that they can also throw at different paces. So for me, my biggest takeaway is the dynamics of that Ravens offense as a defender. They keep you on your toes, then they put you on your heels. They keep you off balance.
Well,
And what's funny, like he went into it explaining like the change of pace for the backs, right? And obviously between, Justice and Derrick Henry, and this is one of the, like I said last night, is because of Justice Hill's play that Keaton Mitchell isn't getting in yet. Justice Hill is giving the big stiff arm to Keaton Mitchell. I mean, I assume it's part of the reason. I don't know if Keaton Mitchell is 100% yet, but I know people want to see him more. But it's like, how do you take Justice Hill off? How do you take Derrick Henry off? Like, it's just, you just don't want to do it with the way, 51-yard touchdown, serving justice to the Chargers. So, but what they did, he didn't even mention there, and they went on to explain, or they went on to note that that's not even counting Lamar Jackson. And then he had his quarterback run and threw in the hezzy. And, obviously he can throw it through the air. He has that explosive bomb and to Rashad Bateman. I mean, this offense can turn it on like that, Bobby, like that. It's a snap of a finger as long as they don't get in their own way. And all these pitches he's talking about is 1,000% on point. There's so many different ways that Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson can attack you.
They wore the Chargers down last night. They
were way more physical.
They wore them down in the trenches. Derrick Henry single-handedly wore him down, including that one run where he had two back-to-back violent, vicious stiff arms. Lamar's ranks among quarterbacks this season. He's first in passer rating, tied for first in passing touchdowns thrown, first in passing yards, first in rushing yards, first in total touchdowns, first in total yards. MV3 continues.
Let's remove that question mark, NFL on CBS, MV3 question mark, MV3 exclamation point.
And with all of that, he's playing clean football. The interceptions have not been his fault. He's totaled 30 total touchdowns, just 3 picks that actually have to go into the score sheet, even though we know the context behind each one of them. And man, this team is scoring with the best of them. Better than anybody in the league entering week 13 with 364 total points. Detroit, just south of them, the Lions, playing some darn good football in the NFC with 360, and then a little bit of a drop-off between Detroit and Washington. Buffalo, Tampa, Cincy, and Philly round out this list in terms of NFL points leaders. But Sarah, you mentioned Justice Hill, and I feel like there's just certain things that get caught or lost in the shuffle of a post-game show where we just have various points that we're taking. We're fast-paced. Super chats are flying in. You're keeping up with the news cycle on the timeline and whatnot. I mentioned it briefly, and I want to mention it once more, because while Keaton did not receive one offensive snap, he did play some special teams for the Ravens. And maybe that is due to his overhaul rehab process, their ramp-up plan for him moving forward. Who knows? Justice has earned the right to continue to be that second-string guy, to continue to be used in the screen game, in the run game. And how about, yet again, showing up on tape as a blitz pick-upper? If you haven't watched the Mark Andrews touchdown yet in the red zone, where he mosses a guy and just fights for the football and comes down with it, go look at what Justice did to ensure that blitz was picked up. Number 43 is always doing dirty work for this team, and it was awesome, as we said last night, to see him cash in on something that was a true highlight. Highlights can come in any form or fashion, but the ones that are talked about are what he did from 51 to the house in a burst to the left-hand sideline. What aren't talked about enough is what he did on that Mark Andrews touchdown. He's a glue guy. Every championship team needs him, and he's given exactly that to the Ravens.
And I hope that while Keaton Mitchell, unfortunately, hasn't been able to get out there yet, I hope he's picking up on those small things. Because all third down running backs or change of pace backs need to be able to protect their quarterback. You got to be able to read blitzes. And by the way, let's not forget that Justice Hill was being criticized for his lack of picking up the blitz in the AFC Championship game. And so I'm curious if he made it his mission in the offseason to make that a big part of his game, because Bobby, you pointing that out is exactly right. And it's not the first time this season that we've noticed it. And so Keaton Mitchell, when it is his turn, watch what the veteran ahead of you is doing and start learning it now, so you don't have to go through growing pains in front of the cameras the way Justice Hill has needed to do.
Hey, precisely. I feel like it's been a trend that we've been watching since he went one-on-one with Max Crosby week 2 and against the Raiders. And he's just stacked games. And you're starting to look, okay, if number 43 isn't directly involved with the football or directly involved in a play, what is he doing to enhance a play? And that's the fun part about him. The Pat Ricards, look at Daniel Fa'alele's impact on the run game and the impact that he was having pulling as a guard last night. It's all those little things that get lost in the shuffle sometimes of a highlight-driven world that we live in when it comes to coverage. But certainly all those mean just as much, if not more. Over 1,900 of you joining us on this day after. It's Tuesday. It's a Victory Tuesday. Glad you guys can be with us. Today's live stream is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. Samuel McDougald hit us with our first super chat and says, once again, these Buffalo fans hating on Lamar. Haven't seen any of that. But, of course, it's always going to be about the quarterback MVP battle there.
They want him to get an MVP. I get that. And he's having a great year. And so they see Lamar as his competition. So they're gonna play down what Lamar's done. I'm sure Ravens fans are playing down what, Josh Allen is doing. And so this is great. This is the classic iron sharpens iron. And it's going to be a race throughout December.
And they're still upset probably that
he got
average statistical season for an MVP. I'm air quoting.
Gotta win games. You gotta win games with those stats. Sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm not sorry.
Ocean says MSM week 11. Ravens sucks. I believe that's mainstream media probably. Week 12. Ravens are amazing.
Yeah.
Things can change on a dime. We know that. It's a week-to-week league.
Week to week.
Truth Bearer says it's fitting because this is silver anniversary for that Rams team. So Kurt would hand Lamar and the Ravens the Lombardi in New Orleans. Very cool. Extra Butter says, man, give Keaton some snaps. Split the snaps with Derrick Henry. He's supposed to be lighting Keaton. Is not a return specialist. Feed him the ball. Y'all are crazy.
Yeah, but you're not crazy for wanting to take Derrick Henry off the field?
Hey now.
Extra butter.
Hey now.
I do like some extra butter popcorn. I will say that.
Evan writes.
With that movie theater butter. Oh, that's bad temptation.
You don't want to know what that would do to my colitis. It would
I
go
definitely
downhill
don't want to know
fast
that.
for everybody involved. Yeah, anything that's heavy butter, I got to be out, and I got to be out quickly.
All right.
Evan writes, kidney stones last week, stomach this week. What else do you guys want to know about me on this Transparent Tuesday?
Expect a full health rundown by the end of the show, Bobby.
By the way, I'll aid some of the trolls on here that like to go with all the Bobby play word on play and whatnot.
Yeah.
Right before I came on, I referred to myself at the end of last night's live stream after a couple of gaffes, just in terms of polish and listening and whatnot in the wee hours. Bobby brain dead. That's exactly what I was, and I'm gonna wear that. But not today. We're bouncing back today. Evan writes.
Can I just read some of the ones? Can I please?
Sure.
No butter, Bobby. Bobby Bubble Guts. Bobby Bowels. Bobby Castro. I do want to say, though, this is what I'd really appreciate you. So, about you. So, last night you had a gaff. I'm sure I had like 100 more. I don't even recognize my gaffes. That's the difference between you and me. Like, you'd be like, you mean this person? I'm like, what'd I say? You at least recognize them. And so, like, the first thing we get on a call this morning for our show, and you're like, you know I'm still steaming because I repeated that stat from Kyle Van Noy, right? And I was like, well, I do now. And so I appreciate your desire to perfect your craft for sure. For sure.
Thank you. And to give context, just in case you guys weren't with us in the wee hours last night, Sarah and I always pride ourselves as a, one man, one woman band here effort duo that we're doing with no producers, no interns, none of that on the side. We want to make sure that we're constantly listening to one another, not repeating any kind of content, while also making sure that our Twitter timelines are always open to respect the news cycle and the multitasking that often happens here when brand reads need to get in and tickers and all the logos, background stuff. There's just certain things. Yeah, there's just constant overstimulation. It's overstimulation, multiple screens, multitasking that we love to do. But last night I had one of the ones that just keeps me up at night. And repeated a statistic right after.
I've gotten to the point where I have no shame, because I think there was a time last week where you set me up with the question and I was like, I'll just be honest. I got cut up in the chat. Can you repeat the question? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just where I've gotten to, where I'm like, I'm just going to say, I'm not even going to try to pretend that I didn't miss that. Yeah.
Well, you and I are always on the same page with the way that we view this, but sometimes it happens. And last night it happened to me in a big way. Evan writes, EDC's playing 4D chess with bait and Justice's extensions. That's a great super chat, Evan. No question. Justin says, Tylan Wallace over Deontay Johnson for wide receiver 3. Not a lot of continuity so far in a short sample size between Lamar and Deontay. Lamar is 1 for 5 so far when targeting the former Pittsburgh Steeler, who of course spent the beginning part of this year pre-trade deadline in Carolina. Samuel with another one. He says, and they hate that we smoked them week 4, referring to Buffalo. Dev James 25 says, I was at the game. 40% of the crowd was the flock. Great turnout. Also, enough of the illegal formations already, Monken. Roger Rosengarten, the culprit last night.
By the way, I didn't see it, but I saw a tweet. Maybe we'll bring it in for tomorrow. I saw a tweet that Bill Belichick during the Manning cast called the illegal procedure before the refs did.
Yes, he did.
So
and he was in his bag last night.
Was he? I'm going to have to go back and watch that. I'm sure I have it on YouTube TV to watch it. I just want to hear some of these guests. But it lets you know how fixable it is. If he can call it before it's happening, then it's certainly fixable. Just get her done.
Shows you how much of a football sicko he is, too, to nail that right over the TV with all the tape that he's watched. Yeah. He also called out, I saw a tweet that Devontae Walker drew his ire at one point for a special teams rep. So Devontae was active as the 6th wide receiver, the rookie out of UNC, but played just special teams last night for the Ravens. Isaiah says, without any bias, would you have taken Josh Jacobs over Henry based on scheme fit? Just curious. I think you and I were in love with the idea of Derrick since it became
What's so funny is that I don't know how much I totally agree. Like we went into the offseason being like, it's Derrick Henry. And I don't know if it's partially because the Ravens had already tried to trade for him and that fell through. It might also be because of 2019 PTSD and remembering what he did to the Ravens defense. And so like nobody else, I just felt like I wanted the offseason with tunnel vision. Like I just felt like he was gonna be the guy and there was no reason to even think of anybody else.
No, I'm
taking Josh Jacobs over Henry. I mean, the way things are going. I mean, without 2020 hindsight, we were on the Henry train, and with 2020 hindsight, I don't see how you could change that point of view when he's leading the league in all these rushing categories.
Certainly couldn't go wrong with Josh. He's a top 3 rusher right now with 944 in Green Bay, trailing just the King and Saquon, who are obviously having just ridiculous years. So, but Derrick just brings an element of explosiveness to Baltimore that they've, quite frankly, just never had the position, with all due respect to
physicality.
The great Jamal Lewis. Yeah, I mean, it's just a different kind of one-of-one ability that he brings. But hey, Josh is having a heck of a year as well in Green Bay. And I believe he was a day 1 acquisition for the Packers, I want to say, on day 1 of free agency. Saquon, Josh, and Swift.
There was a lot.
I'm trying to remember the running backs that went on day one, but I know the King obviously was day
Derrick
2.
was number 8, right? But he was like 8 of 8 running backs that went early.
Oh, I don't know where he falls amongst his peers, but it was obviously day 2 and on the latter half of the majority of that free agent class. So thanks for the comment. Oh, Kwame following up on last night says, yesterday I did what currency, and we both were wondering, what currency CAD? That is the Canadian dollar. Sarah, you got your wish. King Henry gave you 2 stiff arms on Monday night. Yes, he did. And they were both vicious. Kwame, thank you for the Canadian dollars. Micah says, hey, I'm going to drop in a 99-cent super chat feature. Appreciate you. Storm Chaser Mason Harris says, sick of McCary getting at least one holding call every week. Most undisciplined lineman. He is the most penalized offensive lineman and offensive player league-wide now entering week 13. Tough there for the left guard of Baltimore, who's been playing ever since Andrew Voorhees, Sarah, coughed that job up due to injury. Extra Butter writes, Derrick Henry, Thunder, Keaton, Lightning. Or have Keaton... Okay, sorry. Derrick Henry's the Thunder, Keaton's the Lightning, or have Keaton split snaps with Justice. Keaton needs to be fed the ball too much. Chaperoning going on.
Sorry,
Extra Butter. I
don't think it's in the cards for you, buddy.
A lot of people not happy with the usage of Keaton Mitchell so far. He hasn't been back all that long, but been used very little in terms of offensive snap count.
And it's not like I'm happy with it, but it's hard to complain.
It's very hard to complain.
It's so hard to complain when it's working so well.
Maybe off the Steelers game, you could find areas to complain.
But the Steelers game, the Ravens just went away from running.
Sure.
Derrick only had 13 carries, whatever.
13 of them. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. The Manta Sleep Mask Pro, one of the many sleep masks that both Sarah and I and our families own and use on a nightly basis. It gives you true 100% blackout for a deeper sleep. You got C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort if you prefer. 0 pressures applied to your eyelids or lashes. You got advanced materials built in with ventilation for unmatched breathability. The holiday season is pretty much here or right around the corner, depending on when or how you celebrate. And if you go to mantasleep.com, as you can find at the top of the show notes, and I'll take you to it right now, you'll find, one, our discount code gets you 10% off your purchase. And there's more than just the Manta Sleep Mask Pro as well. The Bluetooth built-in sound mask is super cool for those of you who like a little bit more than white noise to go to sleep. The silk and the sleep masks are also good options as well as sort of the OG products that they've had. But again, the best seller, that Manta Sleep Mask Pro, and I can certainly vouch for that, having worn it for the last year plus. Discount code VAULT10. That's VAULT10. Gets 10% off your next purchase. Mantasleep.com. Help yourself out. Help out a loved one, family member, significant other throughout the holiday season. And, of course, you'll be supporting one of our long-standing brand sponsors here inside the channel. Where to next, partner?
All right, let's go over to Get Up. Get Up. We did the facility. Let's do Get Up. I just liked Graziano. Obviously, Lamar and Derrick and Justice Hill had good games. But what was the most encouraging thing to Dan Graziano?
Not Lamar Jackson. It was not Derrick Henry that made you, Graziano, feel the most good about the Ravens coming out of last night.
Yeah, because I already felt good about both those guys. But the defense for Baltimore last night looked a lot better than it has for much of this year. You saw in those highlights, most of the time, Justin Herbert couldn't find anybody open downfield. Zach Orr, their first-year defensive coordinator, was sending blitzes with defensive backs at the appropriate time. Just looked like they had a better plan, better execution on defense than we've seen from Baltimore this year. If you're thinking about them for the Super Bowl, that's what's encouraging from last night.
I agree, Bobby. Like, I think that as phenomenal as Lamar and Derrick and everybody else was, to me, and remember, somebody at the very end of the show yesterday said, hey, what was the biggest takeaways? And, you know, to me, one of them was the defense. The defensive backs have found a formula. And the biggest reason why people were saying that the Ravens could not win the Super Bowl this year is because of the pass defense. And so now we have 2 weeks in a row. Now, to be fair, it's not like Russell Wilson was lighting up the world. And while Justin Herbert's a fine quarterback, those receivers were failing him left and right.
Quentin
And so,
Johnston had a
yes,
nightmarish night.
nightmarish night. And so they're still, they're building, they're on their way. Jim has turned them around very quickly, but they're some key pieces away from being a more complete team, even a more complete offense. And so, yes, we're still going to need like next week with the Eagles, there's some legit wide receivers over there. Are they all healthy?
Oh, they're relatively healthy over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to get another test.
Yeah.
But if the Ravens defensive backs can continue this trend, when we were like going through the worst of the pass defense, all we were saying is like, we don't even need you to be top 10 with the way this offense is moving. Can you just be average? Can you like rank between 16 and 20? Because that might be enough to where you're stopping him every once in a while and giving some breathing room to Lamar in the offense. And so to me, 2 weeks in a row, to see this new formula and the starting lineup that they have, to me, is the most encouraging, because I already know what Lamar and Henry bring to the table. But we've been like biting our nails, wondering like, can they stop them? Are they going to do it? And now for the last 2 weeks, it's like, okay, all right. So I agree with Graziano. I think that was the most encouraging thing about the game last night.
I think it's hard not to. It's hard not to agree. If the pregame workout that Roquan Smith put in, which Jeff said was 25 minutes and rather intense on the field at SoFi Stadium, is an indication that he was close. It is a short week going into Philadelphia. Is that enough to think that he might be back coming up on Sunday? And if that's the case, will this defense continue to take a step forward? Because while Malik Harrison responded and clapped back to a lot of the noise, we'll reference him later on in the quick hits. He was doing some late night retweeting and other things, like I mentioned off the top. And he had a game high and probably a career night in terms of tackles and overall impact outside of his coverage statistics, especially on that opening drive. Maybe this is a sign of things to come. There was a sense of calm the last 2 weeks. Kyle Hamilton, of course, wore the green dot. He and Ardarius Washington, for a second consecutive week, were the starting deep safeties. And they just provide a certain level of dependability for level 2 that part of the defense has not been able to rely on throughout the course of this season. And this statistic is Exhibit A for why they're heading in the right direction. Bo Smolka of Press Box noted that last night, going into Week 12, the Ravens defense had allowed 50 pass plays of 20 yards or more. That was second most in the league. The Chargers didn't have one of those last night. Now, were there a couple drops there from Quentin that we just mentioned that could have gone for chunk yards? I don't know about 20, but certainly could have gone for chunk, including around that 10-minute mark in the fourth quarter where he had nothing but daylight in front of him, and he just caught himself, as so many pass catchers do when they do drop the football. He was looking ahead before he hauled that thing in. But this statistic right here, Sarah, that's clean living.
It is clean living. It's pretty good. Now, they almost seemed a little scary down at the end there, but I do think the refs were given some assists with some of those defensive pass interference calls. So, but again, not calling this defense number one defense. We're saying get to average, and then everything else will be fine. So, Bobby, we've been talking about the greatest show on grass. We're talking about the development of the defense playing well. Malik Harrison had himself a night. But now let's get into a reminder. We've been feeling ourselves here this morning, but let's bring it down to earth a little bit. Troy Aikman, as good as that win felt last night, challenged the Ravens, reminded everybody what the goal is. What is the ultimate goal? And it's not just to do well on Monday night. It's a little bit bigger than that.
Season is only going to be judged based on what they do in the playoffs. And for them, it doesn't matter about making the playoffs, AFC championship game. They've got to go win a Super Bowl. And they've got a 2-time league MVP, maybe a 3-time by the time they get into the postseason, and they haven't been able to capitalize on it.
He's talking about, he's just been in production meetings before that game with the entire Ravens he's talked to John, he talked to Lamar, he talks to both coordinators. Like, the guys who do the play-by-play get unbelievable access on the day before the game. He's speaking based off of what the Ravens have told him himself. Okay, so it's not fun after a nice win like that to like be reminded, because it's like it takes away time for the fans to celebrate. But this is why Lamar Jackson is straight-faced after every win, and he doesn't get too high and he doesn't get too low. Troy Aikman is just repeating, I'm sure, what he hears around the Ravens facility. We've had good primetime games. We've had great regular seasons. And I do think that for the Ravens, while of course you can always take positive takeaways and you're always growing and this and that, I do think that the Ravens believe that. I do believe that that Lamar Jackson believes that ultimately, you know, their goal in this season will be judged by what they do in the postseason.
He's only echoing, to your point, what Lamar has stood on for months.
Yeah.
And it's trickled down from teammate to teammate to teammate to personnel to coaching staff to assistant, all throughout the organization. So, yeah, you know, other things deserve to be told and talked about prior to that comment, as we've done for the last 38 minutes.
Right.
But we all understand that's the umbrella over this entire operation right now.
Absolutely. And both things can happen at once. You can enjoy and celebrate these wins. Have fun. Have fun. Like when we were watching the Browns, right? We're watching the Browns and the Steelers. How much joy did Jameis Winston have? And this is for a team that's going nowhere.
Yeah.
And his career, he's now a backup. Yeah. And so, like, even though the Browns are going nowhere, they enjoyed that moment for what it was. And so even though Troy Aikman is bringing that umbrella and challenging the Ravens and saying, you've been here before, you can do more, you can remember that while simultaneously enjoying the season. You know what I mean? Like, don't feel bad to enjoy it. Soak it up. Because if the Ravens do win the Super Bowl, then it will just have been a joyful season the entire time. Like, soak it up. These times aren't always here. But I think it's fair to point out what the goal is ultimately. Now, the guys on both Get Up and First Take used that clip from Troy Aikman to look at a bigger picture and have a bigger discussion around Lamar Jackson, because they know it's obviously the quarterback that gets the most praise and it's the quarterback that gets the most criticism. The question they asked on First Take was a little crazy to me, but at least for the first time in I don't know how long, I felt like Shannon Sharpe and Stephen A. Smith brought sanity to the question. And I'm like, this is the question you're asking just a few hours after the Ravens won on Monday night. The question was, is Lamar Jackson's career considered a failure if he doesn't win the Super Bowl?
Probably not. Do we consider Dan Marino's career a failure? Do we consider Jim Kelly's career a failure? We're talking about a guy that a lot of people thought should move to running back or wide receiver position, has turned himself into a two-time league MVP, and as Troy said, a potential three-time league MVP. Absolutely not. See, I think the thing is, you can be a great player. Saturday, Stephen A., I think you will agree with this. You can be a great player, but we use championships to define greatest, EST. Is Lamar a great player? Absolutely. But what Lamar is chasing is what these historically great quarterbacks have. We talk about the Bradys, we talking about the Mannings, we talking about the Elways, we talking about the Patrick Mahomes, the Joe Montanas. That is what he's searching for. So I will not look at Lamar Jackson's career and say it is a failure. The guy was the 32nd pick in the draft, the Baltimore Ravens, traded back into the first round. Had they not done that, he would have fell all the way out of the first round. But he got into the first round and he's turned himself into an MVP. I will not look at Lamar Jackson's career and say it is a failure.
This is tough for me. I'm going to disagree here with Shannon. I think Lamar himself would probably say, you know, this is not what I expect. I think he expects himself to be called a world champion.
Well, I get where you're coming from, Jeff, and I understand it, but I'm going to roll with Shannon on this particular one because I'm not going to let us ignore Dan Marino. Dan Marino is the greatest quarterback to have never won a Super Bowl in a lot of people's eyes. Decades after he's performed, we never, ever, ever failed to acknowledge his greatness. I've never met one human being who has watched football, who has associated failure, the word failure, with Dan Marino. Considering how great Lamar Jackson is, I'm hard-pressed to believe that I'll ever be able to associate the word failure with him when it comes to his career.
Failure is probably a poor choice of words.
Yeah.
But as far as putting him in there, listen, even Aaron Rodgers, as good as Aaron Rodgers is, what is the thing we say? He only won one, right? He only won one. And when he came we find ways to criticize quarterbacks, y'all, whether we like it or not. They get a ton of praise. They're going to receive a ton of criticism.
That segment went on for about 15 minutes, Bobby. So I just try to pull in some of the most pertinent parts. I was happy to see by the end, Jeff Saturday kind of backed off. I think that Jeff was essentially trying to say what Shannon Sharpe was saying. And I think he also was trying to say that, like, for Lamar Jackson, he's not going to be satisfied. He's not going to be happy. He's always going to be like, man, I wish I got my ring. If you weren't going to get it. That is not the same thing as being a failure. It's not even close. This is the classic garbager or goat kind of conversation. And so the other thing that Jeff Saturday kind of gave in on later in the show is he was like, yeah, you're right. He's like, I really didn't think about that he was like a number 32 pick and people were saying he shouldn't even play quarterback. And he's like, so that's why he's like, maybe failure's a poor choice of words. Well, yeah, it is, which is why it was lame that the question was even asked. But I did appreciate that Shannon Sharpe and Stephen A brought sanity to it. And I think that Shannon Sharpe had the best response. He said Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback. That is true. But to be the greatest and add the EST, he's not there yet. I project that he will get there, but right now, November 26, 2024, he's not there yet. And what I find most interesting, do you remember, I feel like it was a couple weeks ago, Aaron Rodgers had made a comment, I think on Pat McAfee's show, where he said that the great quarterbacks kind of let you know when you've made it, right? They're trying to welcome you in. And I was like, yeah, remember how Tom Brady came over to Lamar and then Aaron Rodgers before the game. And then Aaron Rodgers came over to Lamar before the game and they're all giving him his due. That's like, and Aaron
well,
said
how about
that,
the way Steve Young's treated him?
the way Steve Young's treated him. And I'm trying to think who else there is. But what's interesting is this whole conversation started because of what Troy Aikman, a 3-time Super Bowl MVP or I don't know if he's an MVP, but he's a 3-time Super Bowl winner. And so he gets to have a voice in what it means to be the greatest, right? And so that's why he's reminding the Ravens and challenging the Ravens, because it's so interesting to me, Bobby. Usually when people move goalposts, it's a very negative thing. And I get that. It is. It's like, why do you keep changing the standard, right? But in a way, for somebody like Lamar, moving the goalposts is like the ultimate compliment, right? Because you go from switch positions, you can't do this in the NFL, to you take the Ravens to the playoffs your rookie year when under Joe Flacco, they were not going to they were not on trending towards making the playoffs. And then it was like, oh, well, they figured you out. The Chargers back then figured you out. And then he develops more. Okay, well, fine. 2019, you had an MVP, but like your legs were sensational and Greg Roman doesn't use your arm. And then 2023, he shows that he can throw more. And then he gets you all to the AFC Championship game. And before it was like he couldn't win big games. And then he won big games. And it's like, well, you can't have any comeback wins. And he got comeback wins. And then he goes all the way to the AFC Championship. And now it's like, well, you were lucky MVP because nobody knew you. And well, you get 2 MVPs. And now you're in the conversation for a third. And so now today the conversation is Super Bowl or bust. In a way, I find that very complimentary because nobody has moved the goalposts for other guys like that ever. So he's just defied all expectations, which means that like new expectations have to be put on there. And so now you have a 3-time Super Bowl winner saying, hey, to be the greatest, meaning maybe top 10, go get yourself a ring. Go get yourself a ring. This Monday Night Football game, we know you got this. Just like Lamar straight-faced, we know you got this. And now it's that next step. So in a way, it's like you can take it as negativity or you can take it as a compliment. And just my personality is just like, I'm going to take it as a compliment. That's great because I do want to be considered the greatest. And Lamar always had that goal in mind. Always. It's fine. It's about time you guys caught up, but this has always been my goal. And so now I'm glad we're all on the same page.
Goalpost moving doesn't happen without continued growth, continued excellence,
Right.
continued achievement, continued development. And that's exactly what Lamar has done every single season that he's been in the National Football League. What I find most bizarre about what First Take decided to either lead with or be a primary debate topic today after Monday Night Football is the fact that it's after a win, and there's a decent chance that Lamar's not even halfway into his career yet. And yet the main topic of debate after a Monday Night Football win is, would Lamar's career be a failure if he doesn't end up getting after a Super Bowl? It's after a win, and he may not even be halfway in. He is 7 years, not even. It'll be 7 years at the end of this season into his NFL career, 6 of which have been as a starter.
I love
it's
how
such a premature conversation. And maybe somebody out there is playing devil's advocate, and they're like, well, wait a second. On draft night, Lamar made it very clear, promising bringing a Super Bowl to Baltimore. And that's a part of it, and that will always follow him. And that's something that he's embraced and will continue to.
And his detractors laughed at that statement.
They
Because they didn't think he should be a quarterback.
They did.
So Lamar set the standard, but finally everybody else has caught up. I just think it is funny. Some in the chat, not everybody, some in the chat are like, oh, trying to downplay how good Troy was. Okay.
Oh, don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't downplay him the way people downplay Lamar.
You want to know why? Because I think they're dealing with I think they're probably referring to that whole legal situation between Lamar and Troy in the offseason about the trademark and whatnot. I bet you that could be a component of it.
I haven't seen that.
Could be a component of it. But hey, this is a team that and led by Lamar that have exercised their demons. They're no longer unable to come back from deficits. The comeback kings so far this year have won games 4 times after trailing by 10 points, Sarah. They found a comfort zone in doing so. That's the most in a season in franchise history. What was once their Achilles heel is something that's now dirt off the shoulder for Lamar's group.
That is what is crazy. Like, it wasn't that long ago when everybody said the Ravens have to play with a lead. And here we are in week 12 with 4 wins after trailing by 10. Most in a season in franchise history.
One of the many reasons probably why the panel, Jeff Saturday, Dominique Foxworth, Mike Greenberg, Dan Graziano, all think and are all predicting the Ravens will be crowned AFC North champions. They're a half game out of Pittsburgh right now for the top honor in the division. They will see the Steelers again. That's December 21st, coming up next month at the bank. And they will see Philadelphia coming up on Sunday. And that one is going to be potentially a Super Bowl preview, Sarah. We'll see. Coming up Sunday.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Although I'd prefer... Well, I guess I don't care. Just get.
Would you prefer Detroit, or how about just to get there?
Yeah, just to get there. Let's take this one step at a time. I don't know if we're in a position to pick opponents.
That's what I'm saying.
Through Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen and I don't know, the Steelers. Gotta like make that first graphic come true.
Right.
Win the AFC North, and to do that, you better win the matchup. You gotta win the matchup.
Well, the King went for 24 carries, 140 yards last night, averaged 5.8 per tote. 27 was his long. His 11-game streak of scoring at least a touchdown came to a screeching halt due to a penalty that negated his touchdown when he did reach the end zone. And Sarah, as we often know, whether you're a defensive back, linebacker, anybody up front, getting in the way of Derrick Henry on a football field is ill-advised. Now, you have to, though, when you're paid to do so. Sometimes, though, his own teammates can get in his way as well. and he talked about that post game with Karita Parks of Bowie TV and why Mark Andrews found himself in the way of the king on one specific run. Was it, Sarah?
Wait, I thought he was talking about when it was 4th and 1.
Okay.
No, not
Help
that
me
he
out
got in
here.
his way.
Help-
No, no, no,
help
no,
me
no,
out
no,
here.
no. No, so on the 4th and 1, where Mark Andrews took the direct snap, Derrick Henry and I believe Patrick Ricard were lined up right behind him. And so they were pushing him over the first down marker on 4th and 1 from their own 16.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
This was the gutty. Okay. This was the first of 3 4th down calls that they would
Yes.
convert.
Yes.
4th and 1 on their own 16. Couple minutes left in the second quarter. Thank you for the reminder. Here is the king on that specific play and his role and what he was trying to jumpstart for Mark Andrews.
I told him, I'm going to push you. So, be ready to get
Wait, play that again. Why do I find this so funny? Okay, so he goes up to
I do
Mark,
as well, by the
4th
way.
and 1.
Just so
Okay,
you know,
good.
I do
Oh,
find this
yay,
funny.
we're on the same
Okay.
page. We both
Yes.
find something funny. So
Yes.
4th and 1, he's lining up to get behind him. And so what does he say to Mark?
I told him, I'm going to push you. So, be ready to get this. So he said that to me, so I felt you. I said, you did it right. I'm sure you got it. But yeah, great job, everybody blocking. Yeah, I had to give him a shove. That's good.
Got to give him a shove.
Oh, wait, one more time. One more time. Where did it go? Okay, one more time.
I told him, I'm going to push you. So,
I'm gonna push the you know what out of you. Get out the way. It worked. It worked.
It worked. Oh man.
And Sarah, now we've seen multiple times this year where tight ends have gotten the call from Todd Monken on direct snaps in crucial short yardage situations. Charlie Kohler getting the call. His number was called earlier on in the year. By the way, we'll have to see how he came out of last night. We mentioned he left in a sling. I believe it was the right wrist or somewhere around there, Jeff Sarebek noted. But now Mark Andrews gets the call. Tight ends are getting it done, moving the chains.
It was a little too close for me, Bobby. A little too
It was close, all right. Oh, it was close. Now, Joe Buck had that immediately, though. If you notice that, Troy and Joe immediately got the sign from their spotter that they were over the line. They were rolling.
Yeah. Okay.
They got the yard. It might have been less than a yard too, but it was close. And if you are John Harbaugh, by the way, ooh, boy,
Going up behind Linderbaum, who suddenly had back issues creep up over the week. Woo!
right? Tyler,
That's why it's like, that's why we call it a gutsy call. It's like, what's funny, and like, I swear on my life, I swear to you, when they first came out, because I was like, go for it. I was like, go for it. Because there was just something about where I felt like the Ravens had more physicality. And like, I know it was deep in their own territory, but I was like, you got Derrick. And so when they came out to try to draw them off sides, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right, maybe I got a little bit caught up in the moment. I guess it's smarter to like punt here. And then the commercial went, and I saw the reporters who were on site tweeting that they're like, oh, the Ravens offense is coming back. And I was like, oh yeah, let's go. But I didn't want it to be Mark Andrews. I wanted it to be a handoff to Derrick Henry. Because remember, when Derrick had his 4th and 1, he went for like 20 some odd yards.
Oh yeah.
So I was a little nervous that it was that tight end play, because I don't like taking the ball out of either Lamar or Derrick's hands in crunch time. But then again, Mark Andrews isn't that bad either. But yeah, no, I was all for going for it. And so yeah. No, but it's still scary. And so you're like on pins and needles, and you're like, holy crap. If you don't convert this, you are literally gifting them a touchdown, at the very least a field goal. So when we say that's a gutsy call, that you have, guts of steel, I mean, it's so true. If the Ravens had not gotten that, just think about how that flipped the momentum of the game. And 3 plays later, they were in the end zone versus giving the ball to them on the 16. It still boggles my mind that play happened.
Unless you are Jason Kelsey's Philadelphia Eagles, does anybody really feel confident about consistently tush pushing for a first down?
I know. In your own 16?
Like, it's just
With like 2 minutes left, and you would have just given them an opportunity?
Yeah.
To go up
It is
further?
one, as we reiterated time and time again last night, and we will again. As much as John Harbaugh's decision-making is challenged and dissected and talked about when it goes sideways, we should do all that and more when it goes right. And it went right for him. They were 8 for 15 on third down, 3 for 3 on fourth down. And that, at the end of the second quarter, was one of the game-changing plays that should be talked about for a long time when it comes to the Harbaugh Bowl, John Harbaugh's decision-making, the gut feeling that he had. He trusted that gut boy, and they got it done, and it changed the arc of that game.
And to just keep doing it on fourth down, Bobby, is just so disrespectful.
Oh, it really is. It honestly is.
It's like, I don't care that I'm on my own 16.
Yeah.
Stop me. Stop me. I dare you to stop me. And
That's the thing, right? It's like game changing and it's ballsy and all those things, but it's also, yeah, that's essentially like, what are you guys going to do about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah.
This is the Harbaugh Bowl.
What are you going to do about it?
We feel like this is a must win to get back into the division race.
Yeah.
And we're going to set the tone right now, and you're not going to be able to do jack about it.
Nothing.
And from that point forward, that's exactly what the team embodied on I was going to say all three phases. Special teams had a tough night, aside from Justin Tucker bouncing back and drilling it from 45 right down Main Street. But that was an electrifying, galvanizing moment for that group last night. Because remember, sure, the defense then let up a field goal before the half quickly in under 60 seconds, it felt like. But you still kind of getting the ball out of the half. That's when Justin kicked that field goal. You go up 17-13. And from then on, it just kind of felt like they had this infusion of confidence. Think about it. Like, John Harbaugh is making this decision based on a number of different factors, including the gut feel. But think about what kind of confidence that instills, what kind of empowerment that instills in his players.
Especially this offensive line, Bobby, that has the 3 new starters. And it's again, all season, it's the offensive line, and it was the defensive changes that everybody was worried about. And rightly so. Like, they've struggled early. The offensive line coming together a little bit quicker than the defense, or the defense pass defense. But like, you're absolutely right. What a confidence building moment. Like it was in 2019. You like Yonda was there, Marshall Yonda was there, and it was like, of course we're going to do this to you. Of course we're going to do this. We got Marshall Yonda right there. We're just going to run up right behind him. So to have these guys out there, the McCarys, the Stanleys, the Linderbaums, the Fa'aleles, and like just a bunch of big men, going up against other men, and we beat you 3 times on fourth down. You couldn't stop us. That for sure for this offensive line could be a turning point for them to being like, let's do it again. Give it to me again, coach, because now I've been in the moment and I did it consistently 3 times. We can keep doing this. And in big moments, it's going to be so huge, especially in the playoffs.
Kyle Hamilton was funny on the post-game show with Scott Van Pelt. He was essentially saying like, hey, me and the guys were joking on the sideline. You don't make that call on fourth down on your own 16 if you don't feel pretty comfortable with the job security that you have as the head coach of this team, as the second longest tenured head coach in the league. So for all those that are getting after Harbaugh on a weekly basis, regardless of win, loss, or draw, just keep that in mind. That's coming from their franchise defensive player, soon to be franchise player. He's going to get a nice deal from this team at some point, you would think, in the near future off that rookie deal. He's one of, you talk about bargains. Kyle Hamilton is a bargain right now for this team. Dave is hilarious. Dave says, I hate Harbaugh, but 100% agree with fourth down calls. Samuel says, Sarah, you were made for this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sam says, this is the third super chat we've received from Samuel McDougal today. He says, Sarah, you were made for this. I swear I love you both.
We love you, Samuel.
Richard says, John showed off the gym on fourth down inside the 16. Dream says, it only takes one. If Lamar only wins one Super Bowl, you can't strip away him being a champion. Rodgers has one. It took Peyton till his last year to win a second, and it's a lot of great ones without one. Time will tell. Daniel Rodriguez says, did anyone peep the pregame gender reveal by 2 Ravens fans? They gave us good luck and hope you two have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I did see that. That was caught by the ESPN cameras. Cool moment there out at SoFi.
Wonderful
Truth Bearer,
you too.
same thing. Yeah, D-Rod, absolutely. Truth Bearer says, I hate to admit that he's right. Marino wasn't as talented as Lamar. No quarterback has ever had his combo of athleticism and efficiency. Have to win multiple rings.
Oh, Truth raising the bar.
Dave says, Jeff Saturday is simply a Lamar hater. Ocean says, this week will feel a lot like the game versus the 49ers last year. Yeah, honestly. Considering Lamar's dominance against the NFC, we shall see if that holds true. Gerald Jackson says, now, the only difference, though, Oceans, with that, as I'm thinking of this on the fly, Lamar didn't have the MVP. Lamar wasn't considered an MVP frontrunner going into Christmas night last year. He was a candidate. Right now, he's the frontrunner, you would think, universally. Based on what I've seen, it's hard not to view him as the frontrunner. It's not that Josh isn't a candidate. It's not that – I'm sorry?
Who do you think is the frontrunner?
Lamar.
Oh, okay. Keep going.
It's not that Josh isn't a candidate. It's not that Saquon isn't a candidate after his ridiculous weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the one difference going in. But in terms of elite, yeah. And I don't expect Philly to lay an egg like San Francisco did, Sarah, on the road on Christmas night, the way they did. But we've seen stranger things happen with this team. Gerald says, I feel like constantly rotating the lineup, healthy scratches, still signing players after the deadline. The message is clear. Execute better or else.
They'll find a way.
Is referring to me as a drama queen. Not necessary. The way I talk.
What did you do that was drama queen this time?
I don't know, man. I'm always Dave's always getting after me. I'm going to view that as a compliment, though. Just like you did with Lamar's goalpost moving. Mike writes, Wiggins looked solid. Big hits. What's up from Hawaii? Okay, Micah. What's up, Micah? Godsey says, credit to John Harbaugh for the fourth down dice rolls, but why blow it going for two? Kick the PAT, and Los Angeles has to chase 2 points all night, and maybe onside kick later on isn't an option. Well, the reason why you go for it, you're trying to make it a two-possession game.
Yep.
And, of course, it didn't
and they were
work out that way. Yeah, they were wrong. And what was it again? Lamar moving. Lamar taking the snap and moving to his right, opposite from the left.
And he hit Zay.
He did.
It was funny because for a minute I thought maybe Bateman had tipped it because it looked like Bateman went for the pass.
Yeah.
But once I saw it back end zone view, he didn't tip it. I think it was just a little far ahead of Zay, but it was in his hands. I think it was catchable.
He put a Stafford kind of zip on that ball.
There was some
that
zip.
Was a fastball.
Well, and then the 40-yarder to Rashad, it's just really a flick of the wrist. It's insane to me.
Oh.
It's insane.
That was poetry in motion. The concentration from Rashad. So happy for him. That was a big moment. Big play from Bateman and Lamar. Deep ball, primetime lights, the significance of that moment. Big time. Storm Chaser Mason Harris says, it seems every time we expect a player to have an off game, they prove us wrong. Malik definitely heard the chatter all last week. We're getting to him in just a second. You know what? Look at what he did. Look at last night.
Now.
You're right on, Mason. Appreciate the segue. So one of the many retweets that Malik gave, I believe you retweeted a transcription of yours as well, Sarah. But from this guy, Leary J.
Malik?
I'm sorry?
Malik did?
I think he may have retweeted one of your transcriptions. If I have him in my tweet deck column, I think I saw that. But
to his Twitter, let me see.
But one of the things that Malik retweeted was a follower of his or somebody online who said, F y'all say about Malik Harrison again? And he retweeted that. And he was feeling himself, Sarah, on that plane ride back. In Roquan's absence, he tallied a game-high 13 tackles, 7 of which were solo. He had a tackle for loss sprinkled in there as well. And how about this? How about the workload? 72% of Baltimore's defensive snaps he tallied. And that was also while chipping in on special teams as well.
It is funny. I just went to his Twitter. So he retweeted me. And then he retweeted the one that you have on the screen, which has the F y'all. Mine, it's just funny looking at it because mine has the edit. Like I put A asterisk. Yeah. And then the next one is just F y'all.
Oh, yeah.
After each
hey,
other.
do your thing, Malik. You earned
there
it, man.
You go, Malik. You do all the retweets you want, buddy.
You got to love that.
You earned that. Take your victory lap.
That's got to be so satisfying. And while he has his limitations, right? It's not like he doesn't have his limitations in coverage. But you know what? This dude was flying around. He got caught in the wash once on J.K. Dobbins' big burst before J.K. went down. Prayers up for J.K. and that knee. But Sarah, he went into thumper mode. He was physical. He covered good ground. He was impactful for them. And in the absence of Roquan, and I saw a comment on this earlier on in the live stream, and I think it warrants repeat. Malik is a backup. He's a backup option. And so, when you evaluate him, you have to take that into account as well. And he was playing inside, outside for them, doing everything that Zach Orr was asked of him. Big night, a career night for Malik Harrison, who's been a glue guy for this team for a while.
If the Ravens had at quarterback the same version of Malik Harrison backup at quarterback, I'd be feeling really good.
I bet.
Like if a backup quarterback stepped up the way Malik Harrison did, even though he had his moments, especially in the beginning, I would take that all day long. Give me the backup quarterback version of Malik Harrison at linebacker.
Well, guess what? You might be getting it. You might be getting it, partner.
Yeah, I was hoping we would get some news before our live stream because he's available since 4 p.m. yesterday, right?
Okay, so Daniel Jones is a free agent now. He's an unrestricted free agent.
Yes, sir.
Cleared waivers yesterday, to your point, 4 p.m. Eastern. So coming up on the 24-hour mark.
Wait.
Peter King.
4 p.m. yesterday or 4 p.m. today? It's usually Tuesdays.
No, it was yesterday.
Okay.
Yep, so he's officially available. And Peter King, longtime legendary columnist, tweeted out within the last couple hours today that Daniel prefers to sign with the Baltimore Ravens. So let's see how things shake out. He is available, and you might be getting what you want there. And guess what? I agree with you.
Give me that comp pick.
I agree with you on a number of fronts. Jemmy93 writes, at what point do you guys think we see about giving Henry an extension? Just curious, since if we win it all, don't think we'd be able to keep him. Well, he's under contract for the next year plus. It's a 2-year, $16 million deal. And he's hitting every single incentive.
I don't think you extend him before his contract's up for a few reasons. Number one, he was the last running back to go in the uncharacteristic running back market where running backs were flying off. And usually running backs don't fly off. Okay. And he was the last one of the upper echelon. He's 30. So you take it year by year. Take it year by year. I don't think you need to. If he were like a franchise player, I think you would do what you did with like Yonda and some of the franchise guys. It's like, hey, we'll keep extending you by 2 years and it's your choice. So you could go that way.
Yeah.
And then you structured in a way that you're really not hurting yourself. So you could go that way. I just usually feel like it's like a long-time Raven that you've drafted that they usually give that respect to. But I'm not concerned that if he hit free agency that the Ravens couldn't get him back.
Well, the nice part for the King, from his perspective, is that he's already unlocked several different incentives that were written into his contract, including 3 $500,000 separate triggers. He hit his 13 total touchdown clause. He hit his 15 total touchdown clause, and he hit 1,200 rushing yards. Will 1,500 be on deck? Time will tell.
Quick side note here, Bobby. I was wondering, and I just looked it up, how big Malik Harrison is compared to Roquan, because Roquan's a big dude.
Yeah.
Roquan is 6'1", 230 pounds.
Yeah.
Malik Harrison is 6'3", 255.
Oh, he's a big boy. Yeah.
You know those hits hurt. You know it stung. It stung when he hit those guys.
Yeah, he laid some hardwood last night. Tank Bromansky writes, Ravens to the Super Bowl, believe it. Liza says, Keaton over King Henry. Hell no. Are you crazy?
Lisa bringing some sanity to the chat.
Richard says, John showed off the gym on 4th inside 16, and we are fully caught up on Super Chats. Back to quick hits we go. Over 3,000 of you joining us concurrently today. Thanks for being here. Like the video, please. Subscribe. We're coming up on that 20,000 subscription count number. We would love to hit that before December. I've been saying that for weeks. Can we hit it before December? Please subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Do all the things. And hear me out on this one. Lamar's 40-yard touchdown pass to Rashad traveled 57.4 yards in the air. That's his second longest completion of the season and his second over 50 yards of air distance. That's a next-gen stat. Lamar's 4 longest completions this season, Sarah, have all targeted Rashad Bateman.
That Jackson Bateman chemistry coming alive. And you said it. You said it earlier this season or in the offseason, whenever you said it, with how good the offense is. Just imagine if Bateman comes alive, because now you have that deep threat that safeties are going to have to respect. All the safeties that are coming up on the Ravens schedule, starting next week with the Eagles all through December, they just watched Bateman and how deep he gets. They just watched. Fulton, is that his name? Fulton, 2 times in a row, have to do a defensive pass interference, and he had to lift his hand that one time because he was so off. Because Bateman hit him with that, 1-2, whatever stutter he does, the silky smooth route running. So he had to grab him because he knew that he had lost him on the first defensive pass interference, and then he lost him in the end zone, and Bateman still had it. You now have, we just watched from Acho on the facility talking about how safeties had to make decisions with Derrick Henry, and then the changeup with Justice Hill. And now a safety has to be like, oh crap, I got to watch Rashad Bateman getting over the top of me. Yeah. Keep climbing, Bate. Keep climbing.
He is 2 receptions for 43 yards. He was targeted 3 times, scored that touchdown, and a long of 40, of course, which is what you're looking at on the screen. Khil Mack, star pass rusher for the Chargers, was held in check last night, Sarah. His final statistic count, and this is an all-pro player, keep in mind. Khil had 4 tackles, 3 of which were solo, and a quarterback hit. A quiet night. He talked with reporters post-game, and our guy Chris Rim, who was our Chargers insider that we had on last week in our preview episode, he transcribed a few things that Khil had to say about Derrick Henry specifically. And he said, quote, "I don't think it's hard to play against that guy, and hopefully we see this team again. The way I play football, I would love to play this team again. I would love to. It's not hard for me to play against that guy. I love playing against the greats, and this was no different. When I say hard, I mean in the sense of playing against him. If I'm on the field, I know if he comes to my side, I got him."
The feeling is mutual. I don't mind playing the Chargers again. Like, get yourself a wild card spot.
I see what you did there. You know what? These guys all have pride. These guys all have competitive spirit.
Khil Mack's that guy.
And Khalil's a freak.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to give credit where credit is due.
But Henry's a bigger freak.
And Sarah, the bigger freak, walked away with the bigger stat line and the victory. The King, 24 carries, 140 yards, averaged 5.8, did reach the end zone, which was called back due to penalty, had a long of 27. The Chargers had no answer for him. And so while Khalil's standing on business in his mind, and he did refer to the King as a great, which he is, and a future Hall of Famer, sometimes you got to tip your cap.
I was reading a longer quote. I don't think he was meaning it as disrespectful. It definitely kind of comes across that way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But I do think he's just like, listen, I'm the same way. When I get beat, I want to go play again. And I don't care if I got beat by 20. Like, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again until I figure out a way to try to win. So that part, I don't hate that. Khil Mack is great. But yeah, I've got no problem if these two match up again.
See if the Chargers have got a lot of work to do if that's going to happen. Terms of the snap count and observations that came along with said snap count. Jeff Zarebek noted the Ravens rolled through defensive personnel. They really did. A lot of different packages, a lot of different players, a lot of different numbers. 20 different Ravens played 9 or more snaps defensively. Malik Harrison played 50 and 23 on special teams. So 50 defensively, 23 teams. Deontay Johnson and Marcus Williams continue to have limited to no roles on offense and defense. Tre'Davious White played over 50% of the defensive snaps. John Harbaugh kind of alluded to that and tipped us all off to that as a expanded role, I think was the quote. He said he was looking forward to the expanded role that Tre'Davious will be playing leading into week 12. And Jeff was like, I didn't have Chris Board out snapping Trenton Simpson on the bingo card either, but that's exactly what happened. And Sarah, we've talked a lot about Malik because he's sort of the headliner coming off this performance. I like the stability that Chris gave him as well. Chris Board.
So if Tre'Davious White had 50%, can we zoom in? I want to see what Stevens had.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to zoom in on a different platform, and I'm going to tell you what Brandon Stevens finished with. Okay, so Chris Board, 37 defensive snaps for 54%. Malik had 50 for 72%. Stevens had 54 for 78%.
Yeah, but at free safety, they have him listed at.
Free safety, not corner.
Whoa.
And Tre'Davious, again, 36 for 52%.
This is crazy. So Kyle Hamilton at strong safety at 100% and Ardarius Washington at free safety for 100%. So how are they listing Stevens as a free safety too? I mean, he's obviously in there in dime packages, but he had 78%.
Yeah.
Hamilton 100, Washington, Humphrey 94, 84 for Matabike, okay, Stevens 78, Wiggins 75. How the heck do all these guys? They must have been doing some of that, the dime packages, and must have been in there a lot.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna need to dig deeper into this. Let's do that tomorrow.
Okay.
I want to see how
Jalen
these
Armour
guys are
Davis.
rotated in.
Jalen Armour Davis logged 10 snaps. Brent Urban had 10 snaps. Adisa Isaac got a bump as the rookie, 14 snaps. Trenton Simpson, just 30 snaps. That's 43% of the defensive snaps. Let's see. Travis Jones, that was one to watch going in because of the ankle. He and Josh Tupou split some time.
What were the splits?
Not exactly split, but at least Tupou came in for him. Tupou, 13 for 19%. Okay. Travis, 34 for 49%.
Okay, about half.
Roger Washington, 35 for 51% of the defensive snaps, so on and so forth. Nate Wiggins' role continues, 52 snaps, 75%.
Chat saying they were just having three safeties out there a lot. But Bobby, this is great news because this is what we talked about. We were like, let's move Stevens to safety because he played it, right? And so now they've got three guys back there in these three safety roles, especially on dime packages. I mean, I got to say, I like it.
Yeah, Brandon started his career as a safety, former college running back.
He started his NFL career.
Former college running back. He's done a lot that's been asked of him. And, of course, got away with one yesterday, Sarah, with that penalty being picked up on him, the DPI that was initially called, and then it was deemed to be uncatchable, the ball that came in from Herbert. So he got away with one. You
can also intimate that with Trenton Simpson, if he were ready, right, he could be a full-time linebacker like Patrick Queen was. And so when Roquan goes down and he's not getting as much snaps as these other guys, it just may mean that he is still learning the way Patrick Queen did, you know?
Sure.
Like, it doesn't mean he's, not going to get there eventually, but maybe not quite there yet.
Top 10 highest paid coaches. Jim Harbaugh finding his way on the list.
Well, so this is just highest paid coaches in all U.S. sports, so it's not just the NFL. So I went and looked up the NFL. John Harbaugh is right underneath Kyle Shanahan. I think John's at $12 million. So I believe, well, I don't know if he's number 11 because there could be other coaches that are between those two. But in the NFL, John Harbaugh is right underneath Kyle Shanahan. Jim Harbaugh making much more. He obviously probably got a contract more recently than John. But $12 million with his championship. Andy Reid's getting paid $20 million. Fair. Sean Payton getting $18 million. Then Mike Tomlin at $16 million. So Mike Tomlin at 16, whereas John's at 12. And again, maybe it's because Mike Tomlin got a contract more recently. Jim at 16. Sean McVay at 15. Kyle Shanahan at 14. And then John's at 12. So feels like he's, I was going to say being paid just fine in terms of what he's brought to the table compared to these guys. But I'm sure in his mind, he could be paid even more. Why not be on there with his brother and others closer to 16 or higher,
Current contract runs up after the 2025 season for John. Okay. And one final salute to service nominee, the Ravens. And you actually brought this in. So Steve Claggett Jr. is being nominated for their Salute to Service Award.
Yeah, we mentioned this briefly, but he was highlighted by, I believe, Fox Sports, right? And his service and what he's done with the Ravens. They brought him in as I'm going to forget it, something like character assessment, right? So he's looking at that part of it in the draft and in free agency. And he has a heck of a history with his time. I want to say he was in I'm going to get it wrong, but clearly just amazing what he's done with his military service. And now he's come in and bringing that leadership and being able to find high character guys for the Ravens. So certainly a well-deserved nomination.
I'll give you his bio. Steve Claggett Jr. Let's give him his due.
Let's do it.
He leads the Ravens character assessment of NFL prospects and manages the processes for leadership development and works to enhance, protect, and sustain a strong culture spanning both football and business operations. Prior to joining the Ravens, he served as a Navy SEAL officer for 13 years, deploying 8 times across the globe. In 2020, he transitioned to the Navy Reserves and joined the Ravens through a Skill Bridge internship. Steve was appointed by the president as a White House Fellow, a 1-year nonpartisan assignment. He served as a senior advisor to the Assistant Secretary of Veterans Employment and Training Service at the Department of Labor. He rose to the rank of commander in the Navy Reserve. This guy is an All-American. A Pat Tillman Scholar, Steve is amongst a select group of individuals forever honored by the Foundation for their service, intellect, leadership, and impact. He is a commissioner with Maryland's Veterans Commissions, so on and so forth. This guy has a decorated resume. I'm glad you brought this in. Congratulations to the Ravens nominee.
There you go.
Okay, Blake and No Way DJ. Blake Yaspa, No Way DJ. We appreciate you both for being part and being valued members of our Vault Patreon community. Thank you for the support that you give us. This is the bedrock of our channel. It really is, our Vault Patreon community. We've got hundreds of members in there, and you too can become a member if you're interested in joining the community for as little as $1.99. It goes directly towards what Sarah and I do on a daily basis here to provide you daily Ravens content year-round, and you can visit and check it out at patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. That link is actually a pinned comment for those of you in the YouTube space right now in the live chat if you'd like to go check out what we're offering. Partner, great show. Short week. Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday. Look forward to kind of figuring out our schedule and whatnot. We do have at least one other super chat as well from Mason Harris, who's been dropping them in, the storm chaser himself. He says, I really miss Kyle Hamilton getting snaps at the line of scrimmage and getting that backfield penetration. Nobody reads plays quite like Kyle does. And, I referenced something like that I was torn within the last week or so. Let me tell you, first of all, the Ravens, this is a non-negotiable. They had to make this decision to put him on the back. And he's maybe not as impactful, but dang it, he is still very impactful away from the line of scrimmage. This was a non-negotiable, Sarah. It's something they had to do and quickly changed their overall defense.
You could argue more impactful because he's gotten rid of all those. He's gotten rid of all of those miscommunications, and him along with some other changes. But making sure everybody in the defensive back room back there knows where they're at. Like, he's brought stability back there. So maybe he's had a bit more. I don't know. You could argue it either way.
You could you could absolutely make that argument as well. And you got to give Darius Washington his flowers as well. I saw him overly communicating. He was over communicating on the field last night in LA. Justin, don't you worry. We saw that you just became one of our newest patrons. You're almost up in the cycle in terms of when your shout out's coming. We appreciate you, Justin. Hold it up there in PA. It's a short week.
Real quick, want to put this one on there. Oh, and I do want to make a mention of my workout this morning. But Lisa Frankel asking Bobby and Sarah, are you cooking for Thanksgiving? Absolutely, I am. I've got my brother and sister-in-law coming to town with their 4 kids. I've got my 4 kids. It's going to be crazy cousin time. But when I tell you, I've got turkey, I've got beef tenderloin, I've got the green bean casserole, I've got the sweet potato casserole, I've got the mashed potatoes. We'll have some mac and cheese for the kids. I got cranberry sauce, even though I'm not, just for the group. But I guarantee I'm going to be throwing half that out. Nobody ever eats cranberry sauce. It's so overrated in Thanksgiving dinners. Okay, we've got the rolls. We've got shrimp cocktail to start, along with some meats and cheeses. When I tell you, when I see you for the Eagles game that I may have put on 10 pounds, like I will be gobbling up all this food. So
let's go.
All of that. Hopefully my brother and sister-in-law will help out, but that's what's on the menu. Are you
I know you're
going to be
I know you're going to be a great hostess. Yeah, I'm going to be at my mother's, beck and call. I'll be ready to go. I'll be ready to help out as much as possible. I'll be on fire duty in the backyard. I'll have a cigar that's pretty much lit all weekend. I promise you that. Just so you know, it's a half of a weekend. I mean, I got to drive back down for the Eagles tailgate on Sunday. So Tori and Francisco get in from Denver tomorrow. TJ gets in from New York tonight. John and I are already here. And we'll try and probably split some time here with both parents as well. And I believe, actually, I can't say that. Never mind. I can't say that.
I've never seen you catch yourself because you are so transparent. So I will be.
I really can't say that.
All right, I'm getting you after we log off.
Okay. And I think you already know, but I literally can't say this. So nothing's bad. It's exciting. There's fun times, but I'm done. I'm cutting myself off.
All right. Well, good for you for filtering yourself there. I've created some controversy in chat for slamming cranberry sauce. Tila wants it on a little biscuit. Okay. But so Bobby, this morning I kind of gave you a preview. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're my high intensity, high cardio days. Okay. And so for 60 minutes, maybe 55, we're going hard to music nonstop. Okay. It's just nonstop. And when I tell you my face is beet red by the end of it, I'm sweating everywhere. I do not smell good. Okay. But I love the workout. Like it gives me so much adrenaline. Well, the girl who's in charge of the class, the instructor, she decided that she wanted to do a Taylor Swift day. So all songs, all workouts are set to Taylor Swift songs. It's crazy how many different songs she has. So you could do toners, you could do cardio pushes, all of this. Well, she did this last week and she encouraged everybody to dress up in Taylor Swift themed stuff. Bobby, you know me. This is so out of my wheelhouse. Like the only Taylor Swift songs I know is because my daughters, ask for it. But they're not even my daughters. They're like perfect target audience. They're like 7 and 12 or 11. And they listen to her, but not that big of a deal. So I show up and I didn't have any Taylor Swift stuff on last week and I was razzed for it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to step up my game. Okay. So I go on Amazon. Okay. I go on Amazon and I put in Taylor Swift jumpsuit. Okay. And I found this completely gold one-piece sequence jumpsuit, all gold sequins. Yeah. I put that sucker on. And when I had to do those burpees, Bobby, I thought I was going to split in the back. Like it was, but I showed up and I had all gold sequins, head to toe. And somebody's got to tell me how to like wash a gold sequence jumpsuit with a ton of sweat in it now. But I showed up for it. And now I have a Taylor Swift gold sequence jumpsuit that I'll never use again unless we have another Taylor Swift. But I have to say it was one of the funnest classes and I'm glad I dove in even though it wasn't in my wheelhouse. But we took pictures and video of some of the songs which you will not be getting your hands on, but it exists. Well,
that's what's funny, and chat's all over that as well in terms of like, well, wait a second, don't talk about it, be about it, show about it. And I told you last week, I said, hey, I know you're not sharing Jack on the show, but I expect at least one photo of the getup. Yeah. And it hasn't come through yet.
Well, I thought you told me that it's on my friend's phone, but I don't know if I can trust you. I don't think I can show it to you because I feel like somehow I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind because I feel like you'll be like trying to talk me into it. Come on, let me just show it. Hey, and then you'll try to gas me up. Oh, it looks great. Everybody's gonna love this. Come on, let's do it. I don't even want to go down that road.
Literally, that is exactly what I would do. That is precisely what I would do, and I'd start like building you up, right? Gassing you up to your point. Like it's exactly, Sarah, I'm telling you right now, we can censor the photo. We can make sure that there's nobody that's getting exposed. We can blur out people. We can do certain things to it. They would love it. They would love it. Let's build it up.
You totally would do that, and thus you will not be getting it. Oh, here's another funny story about it, by the way. So, and I know we got to go. Oh my gosh, it's 1:39. Where did the time go?
Oh, we got to go.
Okay, we got to go. Okay, sorry. Last story, Bobby. I'm sorry. Okay. So, of all days that my husband has a day off, he has the day off today because Thanksgiving's coming. And so my workout regimen starts after he's already gone to work all the time. And I'm slightly embarrassed that I'm going to this workout in this gold sequence jumpsuit. And so I'm like, I mean, if I just need to come clean with him, I'll come clean. But if he happens to leave, because he was going to go lift weights this morning. So my workout starts at 9:15 and he gets up to go lift weights at 8:55. And so I hear him go out the door and I'm like, I'm golden. I don't even have to explain myself of why I'm wearing this. Okay. So I'm feeling good. 3 minutes later, the door opens back up and he's fast footsteps. He
Not so
clearly
fast.
forgot something, comes back into the bedroom, and there I am, this Taylor Swift get up. And he stops dead in his tracks. And I was like, don't judge me. And he just starts laughing so hard. I'm like, it's Taylor Swift day. And he's like, how are you even going to work out in that? I was like, I'll figure where there's a will, there's a way. Okay. If Taylor Swift can get up there and sing in it for 3 hours, I can do high fitness in it. So I was caught in 4K, but it was a funny moment. He loved it.
Caught red-handed. His jaw must have been dropped. Who are you again?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff. Well, we'll see. Chat, I'll go after her via text. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'll try my best to. No, whatever you says goes. That's how we do it around here. Let's see. Okay, we're fully caught up to speed on. By the way, it's not whatever she says goes. We're a team, but you know what I mean.
I was going to say
when it comes to privacy,
but you were talking about when it comes to what I want to put out there is what you meant.
Yes.
Yeah.
When it comes to privacy,
we are a partnership on the show. For sure.
All right, guys.
We are not a
appreciate you
partnership in
hanging
what
with
photos
us.
we put out about me. That is
No question.
That is a
No question.
dictatorship.
With that, we appreciate you guys for spending part of your Tuesdays with us. Is John Harbaugh speaking later today?
He should be because there's a Sunday game, but I haven't gotten I haven't checked my email either, though. It's going to be an interesting week in terms of availability because of Thanksgiving. Actually, they did send it to us last week. I forwarded it to you. I'm pretty sure he speaks today.
All right.
Yeah, which could happen in a few minutes. We went way long today.
Yeah. And
plus, we also started late.
And my brother and I have to do something right now that is going to be no media availability today.
Oh, okay.
John Harbaugh will speak along with player podiums and open locker room tomorrow. Okay, so just so everybody's aware of that tomorrow. There's no time attached to it yet.
Oh, okay.
At least in the email that you sent to me 7 days ago. So
okay.
that's what's happening right now. What John and I have to do right now is going to be heartbreaking. Our older neighbor who is single just put her dog down, and we have to go carry the dog to the van. So yeah, that's going to be. We don't know the dog, but we have love for dogs, obviously, and I've never done something like this before, so that's what we're going to go do right now. Say a prayer for Piper, if you guys would. Piper, the golden retriever from down the road. But yeah, we'll end it on not to end it on such a bittersweet note there, but or just a somber note. But
no, but you can be a nice support for her for sure.
That's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. Have an awesome start to your week, guys. Maybe you're already vacationing, traveling, doing Thanksgiving related items, rushing around the grocery store, who knows, but we appreciate you guys for hanging out. Thanks to Manta Sleep for the sponsor and the continued support that they're giving us here inside the channel. Like the video if you haven't already done so. Subscribe if you haven't. We're getting to that 20,000 number before December. Let's go. And hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Tuesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We'll be back in under 23 hours for a Wednesday edition. And until then, we'll talk to you soon. And as always, thanks for spending some time with us here inside the vault.